Well, good evening. We're balloting around 160,000 people who work in the public sector. That's right across the UK civil service and all related public bodies, because these are members who have, since 2010, have had a 2-year pay freeze and then 5 consecutive years of pay capped at 1%.
And what sort of jobs are we talking about here? What sort of things do they do?
Well, our members are the unsung heroes and heroines of the UK public service. Often not talked about, but keep Britain running. So we're talking about people who collect tax, people who secure our borders, people who pay out benefits, people who run the justice system in the courts, the Crown Prosecution Service, people who keep our roads safe in the highways agencies, the Coast Guard agency, people who work in air traffic control. So we're really talking here about people who work not just for government, but related public bodies who affect everybody's daily life, whether it's from culture, paying benefits or collecting tax.
And what sort of pay increases are you looking for?
Well, I should be the first to say our union fully supports our health workers. I'm recovering myself from a heart transplant and I know firsthand how marvellous the doctors, nurses and porters were.
On it.
Thanks very much. But we believe that it's important here that all public sector workers who've had their pay capped should now have inflation-proofed pay rises. We think that that should be at 5%. And our independent research tells us, for example, that civil servants, who are some of the lowest paid public sector workers, tens of thousands earn less than £20,000 a year, for example, have lost £3,500 in real terms since 2010 compared to inflation, and that a 5% increase would only go a small way of actually bringing back some of the money that they've lost.
But the total public sector payroll is £180 billion. I mean, 5%, that's an extra £9 billion that the government has to come up with. How do you pay for that?
Well, first of all, you pay for it by politically accepting that you put a value on your public sector workers who keep the country running.
But what about the cost?
Well, the cost needs to be found by government. I mean, we make the case that the pay cap is counterproductive in economic terms because, of course, when our members get pay rises, they spend the money and they help support the economy. But Theresa May found £1 billion to get the DUP into government.
But £9 billion, that's a couple of pence on income tax.
Well, we believe that there's many routes in which the money could be found. But first of all, the government have to accept that something has to be done. And when I wrote to Theresa May after the general election, because she has no mandate for the public sector pay cap, I got a rude and insulting reply from Damien Green on her behalf that told us our pay was really good and they were capping pay to protect jobs. Now, the civil service has lost 120,000 jobs since 2010, making it the smallest it's been since the Second World War, and our members' living standards are down by 10% in real terms.
But we still have a deficit this year of more than £50 billion. I mean, we can't borrow any more money. So, essentially, you're calling for taxes to go up.
Well, we're calling for the government to make a priority of public sector pay. It has billions of pounds at its disposal, and it should make this a priority. Now, we make the case that, for example, if the government was serious about tackling the tax gap, if it had an economy that worked for all, if it actually prioritised its frontline public sector workers and the people who keep the country running, then that would give us an economic boost. But at the end of the day, it's a political priority. We deserve better, and we're determined to fight for it.
All right, Mark Serwotka from the PCS union. Thank you for joining me. Good to see you.